Okay, so for those of you who are on the fence on whether or not they should get the offset Goosepuck from GENY or the rocker ball with shock drop technology from CURT, this is a huge factor to consider. So we have both of them standing upright to demonstrate the height difference between both of these two very innovative offset solutions. First of all, keep in mind, because this one's going to be a little harder to see in the camera, but the GENY product sits 5 inches further back from where it normally would. The CURT product sits 4 inches further back from where it normally would. Also, if you look at them from a side-by-side comparison, this is the orientation that they would be in your truck, with the tailgate being that way. So the difference here is pretty profound, and I want your opinion, so leave a comment below. First of all, they both fit into the OEM gooseneck connection on your Ford, Ram, or General Motors trucks, right? That's the key. How they do it is a little different. They do both slot directly into the Gooseball connection. They lock in place a little differently. With the CURT, you have this pin to lock it in place, so at this point, these retaining balls won't move, but when it's open, you can see that they collapse in. But that is the lock position. Then you take a pin and you lock it in place. On the GENY, you remove this pin, so you still have a safety pin. This piece right here lifts up and it rotates over. Let's see if I can do it while it's on the bench here. It rotates over and around. It's a very, very strong pin, and it's very easy to get your fingers caught under there. There we go. And now the two retaining balls are loose, and you can snap that back into place, put your pin back in place, and they don't move. So that's how the GENY locks into place. Now the difference here isn't that. The difference is how it actually prevents this assembly from rotating once it's inside of your Gooseball connection. And the way it accomplishes that with the GENY is by using the rear two fifth wheel puck mounts to stabilize it and prevent this from actually rotating. You can see how it's bolted in place right here, and this big wing drops into your other two puck mounts, and it simply slots in. There's no retaining clip on this side, which basically means that this piece right here, this assembly, is just to be able to adjust the height or depth of this piece. However, once these are in, there's nothing preventing you from being able to pull them out other than this being locked in place. So the whole purpose of this is 1/4 inch thick steel, but it's intended to prevent this from spinning. CURT does it a little differently. CURT puts the assembly towards the tailgate, which means that these portions right here, which also drop into your front fifth wheel puck mounts, actually lock in place. They give you chain retainment mounts right here on both sides. And the assembly essentially, I don't want to use the term cradle, even though I'm going to say it. Cradle this Gooseball right here in between where it slots into your Gooseball connection and where it slots into your fifth wheel puck system. Now, again, two different ways of doing it. I kind of prefer the CURT way of doing it because it adds 2 additional points that can carry the load if it needs to. And I don't know if it needs to, because essentially this piece right here appears to be strong enough that you don't need this forward section, even though each piece of this forward section is 1/4 inch thick steel. And right here in the center, you're going to have the plate. You're going to have one piece of this slide out portion, which is adjustable to fit General Motors and Ram trucks. And then you have the other piece of it. So in essence, you have 3/4 of an inch worth of steel in this section in the middle, and then it's all bolted into place. It may not be that structural, even though it's 1/4 inch thick steel right here. It slots into the bottom of the ball right there. And then when you tighten it all up, again, a little bit of the load may be carried by this, but I do like the safety factor that goes along with the fact that if you had any issue here, it would be cradled between the front two puck mounts and the Gooseball mount, which is really nice. On the GENY, again, this whole assembly right here isn't going to really carry any load. It's just designed to keep this assembly right here from spinning or rotating. If there is any load carried at all, it would be by way of maybe these wedging themselves at an angle into those puck mounts, so it just can't shift up. But again, I don't think that's the case. If you were going to have any issue in this section, of course, this piece right here is just one flat cantilevered, lever arm coming off the front of it, and it doesn't have that same cradling effect that you're going to get with the CURT. But two different ways of doing it. But probably the single biggest disadvantage you're going to have with the CURT system is the fact that because of this whole rocker ball assembly, and even if you purchase this without the rocker ball, if you get the standard version of this, which is a static ball right here, basically doesn't move, it still sits significantly higher than the GENY setup. And that could be a problem for a lot of folks with trailers who won't be sitting level once you hitch up to the ball. Basically, the ball is going to be so high that your gooseneck trailer is going to be like this, and you won't be able to make adjustments enough to bring it back down to level. So if you look at the height of the ball on the GENY, and they're both sitting in the same position to where they would lock in, the GENY ball sits just a hair over 8 inches off of, I guess what you could say would be the truck bed, whereas the CURT ball sits a hair over a foot. So that's a significant difference, right? You're talking about 4 inches of difference between the height of the GENY versus the height of the CURT. The way they did this here allows them to kind of do that. Now, I kind of wish that this assembly right here was mounted on the other side, because at that point the wing would be permitted to carry some load if it had to, and it would essentially be a redundant fail-safe to some degree. So that's a suggestion I would have for them. Is it possible to move this whole assembly to this side of the ball? If they were able to do that, then it would give you more of a cradled effect versus, you know, a cantilevered effect. And if they made the entire thing structural from that point, then it would absolutely be that overkill that GENY is known for. But either way, it's a phenomenally built product. They've done a great job with it. Super, super robust, very heavy. I love the lower profile nature in general. The whole thing is lower profile, which I really like. You have all of this mass sticking up right here. I love the fact that CURT puts the chain connections on this, whereas GENY does not, which means you'd have to put your own chain connections in the remaining gooseneck connectors. But I think what would be really cool is if they make a sleeve that goes over these, which I do think they do. I think they make a sleeve or a collar that can go around here for your chains, which would actually make a lot of sense because you have a lot of play, a lot of capability of adjusting this to be able to fit something like that. But it doesn't include them, and it would be nice if it included them because it would then compete head-to-head against CURT in terms of having the chain loops built in. I also like the fact that the CURT locks into your front Goosepuck mounts, whereas the GENY does not, right? It just falls right in. There's no locking mechanism there to keep it in place. Overall, though, what's your opinion? Which one would you spend your money on if they were both the same price? Because they're both about the same price. It'd be interesting to know. Please leave a comment below. And my channel sponsor, etrailer.com, carries both of these products in all configurations for whatever type of truck you have that has the OEM gooseneck fifth wheel prep in it. So whether it's a Ram, Ford, or General Motors truck, they have a system for you. They carry both from CURT as well as from GENY. They both focus very, very much on being strong, robust, high quality, and easy to install, which is really nice. The setup on either one of these is less than 10 minutes, and you should have it in place. Just keep in mind, they are heavy, so you will be doing some lifting whenever you get this in place. Anyways, which one do you prefer, the CURT or the GENY? I kind of favor the GENY because of how low it sits. It's great to have all this stuff right here, but if you find yourself in a position where you can't actually tow your trailer because it's so nose high, maybe it decreases your departure angle so much that you can't even tow your trailer. That's a big concern. And if you can't tow your trailer, it doesn't matter what technology you have, it's going to be a problem. GENY, because it's lower, that's a big perk. Now keep in mind, they both have very, very high ratings. 25,000 pound tow capacity. Not sure what the pin weight capacity is because I haven't been able to find that anywhere, but I would estimate or guess, and this is purely a guess, it's probably between about 5,000 and 6,000 pounds. 30,000 pound towing capacity, 7,000 pound pin weight capacity. So again, very beefy products. I will put a link in the description of this video to both products if you're interested in either one of them, or if you just want to research them a little bit more and you want to see eTrailer's take on it. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.